guard the inauguration of Joe Biden. Ultimately, because of the politics that were being played inside the Defense Department by the previous administration.
But do you support the decision made on January 6th to send the National Guard here to defend
I
the
support
Capitol?
the decision that President Trump made and requesting the National Guard that was denied.
So you do not.
President Trump
you do not support the decision.
You
do not support the decision to send the National Guard here to defend the Capitol. I think that speaks to the worry that many Americans have that there is a double standard, that you are not willing to defend against attacks made on our democracy by supporters of the president, but you are willing to deploy the National Guard to protect against protesters who are criticizing the president. That's not how our taxpayer dollars are supposed to work. They're supposed to be used to defend the United States, no matter the nature of the political affiliation of the protesters. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Baldwin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to follow up on a couple of lines of questioning. Just specifically, Mr. Secretary, what is the authority that the administration is using to deploy active duty Marines to California neighborhoods? What authority?
Senator, the president has constitutional authority in order to support.
Cite the provision of the Constitution.
I'd have to pull up the specific provision, but our Office of General Counsel, alongside our leadership, has reviewed and ensured in the order that we set out that it's completely constitutional for the president to use federal troops to defend federal law enforcement.
Look, I'd like to know the specific constitutional statutory authority. The president made it clear that he relied on Section 12406 of Title 10 with regard to the National Guard troops. I need to know the authority that he is relying upon in terms of active duty Marines being deployed to California neighborhoods.
Senator,
so you'll follow up with me?
Yes, Senator, but there's plenty of precedent of active duty troops being used to support law enforcement, historical precedent.
I'm not disputing that. I am just asking you to cite the authority under which the active duty Marines are being deployed to California.
It's in the order, ma'am, but we'll make sure we get it to you as well.
Thank you. I want to dovetail on a couple of other comments also with regard to the lack of specific detail in the budget request for the Department of Defense. I take great pride in Wisconsin's contributions to our national defense, and that includes many Wisconsinites who are hard at work building the Constellation-class frigate. There is no mention of frigate procurement, just like Senator Collins noted that there's no mention of destroyer procurement in the budget materials that you provided to this committee. My state makes the frigate. I'd also note that there's no mention of the destroyers, as I said. So really, we are looking at a very incomplete budget request when we are just 4 months out from the beginning of the next fiscal year. Mr. Secretary, this committee takes the appropriations process seriously. I take the hard work of Wisconsin's shipbuilders seriously, and I'd like your commitment to provide this material to the committee expeditiously so we can do our work.
Senator, we'll make sure you get all the information, but what I would say is this is a historic investment in shipbuilding, both the defense industrial base and ships. In Wisconsin, and particularly related to the frigate, it's been a program with a lot of problems and a lot of delays and a lot
modifications
that have led to serious
Navy
challenges.
has called for many modifications to the plan.
I'm not saying that's it's all the fault of the shipyard. There are many ways in which modifications were made that changed an existing design so extensively that it led to a ship that was not even capable of the original mission it was supposed to execute. So our job is to make tough choices on some platforms like that may not be funded the way they were in the past, because we have to make some of those tough choices.
Well, we don't have any of the detail right now of what your plans are with regard to the frigate or the destroyer, and we need that information to do our jobs. Can you get it to me?
We have that information, Senator. We have worked in real time in 4 months to reverse a lot of priorities from the previous administration. We have those details and that information, and we will get it to
The
you.
committee needs those details. So this committee has also worked hard alongside the department to improve recruitment and meet retention goals. The department is planning to separate several thousand service members due to your partisan beliefs about troops who are transgender. Mr. Secretary, I've seen your speeches and social media posts, but what I'm interested in is the sound policy analysis that we would expect from the Secretary of Defense on how this misguided decision will impact military readiness. My colleagues and I have requested this information from you, and we are still waiting to receive it. And so I will ask you now, what assessment did the Department of Defense conduct prior to implementation to evaluate the impact that this policy would have on our national security? Moreover, what is the cost to recruit and train thousands of individuals of comparable experience and skill?
Thankfully, recruiting is not an issue. It's at historically high levels, and we're proud of the cross-section of Americans that are joining.
What analysis did you do?
We did extensive analysis, Senator, and we agree with the assessment of the executive order that was issued by the White House that there are mental health issues associated with gender dysphoria that complicate military service and readiness, and as a result, we made the decision.
I have asked for that analysis. Please provide it to me and the committee.
We will provide it.
And then, Mr. Secretary, I think we can all agree that we are at a critical point in our history with respect to global threats that need to counter adversaries like China and Iran. You've gotten a number of questions along those lines. And I'm disappointed that you are instead focusing on a class of ships named for civil rights leaders. You chose Pride Month to direct the Navy to rename a ship named for Navy veteran Harvey Milk. This committee will continue to pursue serious work in the interests of American national security, and I ask you to choose to join us in that endeavor.
Senator, we're not interested in naming ships after activists. That's the stance we're taking.
All right, where we are, due to the interests of all of the members of the subcommittee, is right near the end, Mr. Secretary. We're going to call on Senator Murkowski, and at that point, the hearing will conclude, and if anybody has additional questions for the record, they can submit it for response. Senator Murkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, Mr. Secretary, General Kane, welcome, welcome. And I also want to recognize, General, your trip north to Alaska last week or 2 weeks ago. We appreciate that. We all know, everyone in this room knows the strategic role that Alaska plays when it comes to being on the front lines, whether it is the threat from China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. We're sitting up there. We host the backbone of our nation's missile defense there at Fort Greely, advanced fifth-generation fighters at Eielson and at JBER, critical long-range radar and surveillance systems throughout the state. We've got key airborne forces at JBER, Fort Wainwright. I mean, it's good. It's solid. We appreciate it, and we think that we're in a pretty critical place, and we think that you recognize and acknowledge that we're in a pretty critical place. And yet the FY25 Defense Budget Overview document that was released under the last administration stated that the goal of the budget request in terms of the Arctic was to, quote, develop a monitor and respond approach. I thought that that was a pretty passive approach in a highly critical region. We don't need to go into how many icebreakers we have versus Russia. The good news is that with this reconciliation bill that we're talking about, we move to make a difference in an aggressive way that is really, really important. But I will share with you that I'm a little bit frustrated where we've got stated support for the role in the Arctic region, and I'm assuming that means the U.S. Arctic region. There's a seeming fixation on Greenland that I think sends, I don't know whether it's a troubling signal or a mixed signal, that we're looking past the significance of the U.S. Arctic and the area that is already part of the United States, and happily so. But I like to remind people, everything that the administration wants in Greenland, when it comes to strategic location, when it comes to resources and minerals, we've got it on the U.S. side. So I think any serious Arctic policy has to start with a serious investment in Alaska. We've built it. We need to do more. I would just ask both you, Mr. Secretary, and General Kane, your view of the strategic importance of Alaska and more importantly, the broader Arctic, because this is really, when we're talking about DoD posturing, to make sure that we're deterring adversaries in the region. I just came from a relatively uncomfortable exchange with the Army Corps of Engineers. We don't have a deep water Arctic port in the United States. Everybody says it's important, and the signal of importance that we got was a $3 million placeholder in the budget. To me, that doesn't signify significance. I'm going to stop talking to listen to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I agree with you. It's difficult to understate the strategic significance of Alaska, whether you're looking at Indo-PACOM, whether you're looking at Russia, whether you're looking at the Arctic, whether you're looking at space-based capabilities, whether you're looking at energy, you name it. It's both a defensive posture, but also a power projection posture that is centrally a central focus of how we plan.
Senator, first, thanks for letting me visit up there. I got a full range of academics from your colleague about Billy Mitchell and air power history.
How many times did you hear that?
Ma'am, only a few.
Okay.
But, as the Secretary said, the northern flank is critical, and it's in the right place on the globe for us to be able to do a lot of things from that power projection platform. And so as the department considers through the Secretary force rail, I know it will be high on our radar.
Well, I appreciate that, and appreciate the continued focus. There's a lot of focus on the Indo-PACOM, should be, but just remember, we sit right on top of it. We're connected, we're part of that.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm running out of time. I have been concerned. We have E3 capability up north, of course, but we were all counting on the E7 wedge tail coming our way. We're kind of limping along up north right now, which is unfortunate. And the budget proposes terminating the program. Again, the E3 fleet barely operational now, and I understand the intent to shift towards the space-based, you call it the air-moving target indicators. But my concern is that you've got a situation where you're not going to be able to use more duct tape to hold things together until you put this system in place. And so how we maintain that level of operational readiness and coverage, I'm not sure how you make it. General Kane?
Well, ma'am, thank you for the question. The E3 and the E3 community have been really important to us for a long, long time. And I'll defer to the comptroller, but the department has a bridging strategy through investing in some additional airborne platforms in order to gap fill while the space-based capabilities come online.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Ma'am, we do have in the budget $150 million in FY26 for a joint expeditionary E2D unit with 5 dedicated E2Ds, and the budget also funds for additional E2Ds to fill the near-term gap at $1.4 billion.
And can you tell me how that will that have implications for what we're seeing up north in Alaska?
I would defer to the Secretary and the Chairman on that question, ma'am.
The answer is yes. I would file this entire discussion under difficult choices that we have to make, but the E7 in particular be sort of late, more expensive and gold-plated. And so filling the gap and then shifting to space-based ISR is a portion of how we think we can do it best, considering all the challenges.
Well, I appreciate the indulgence of the chair. My time is well over. If I can get, if your teams can come back with us to just give us a little bit of a walkthrough in terms of what we can be expecting in this space, I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
We will.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Senator Murkowski. Members of the subcommittee will have a week to get questions in for the record, and we'd request witnesses to respond within 30 days. So the subcommittee stands in recess, subject to the call of the chair. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.